Hello everyone, my name's Kyle, I'm with Kitic Music, and today I'm going to show you something that took me way too long to figure out, and that is JUCE's oversampling class. You would use this something in like a distortion or a mixing and mastering plugin to help get more precise data or to remove aliasing. So today I'll show you JUCE's handy function that they use to get that done, get through some of the confusion, show you a little trick that I use, and hopefully get you off and running in just a few minutes. So let's head over to the JUCE API and the things that we will be looking at. So the first one is obviously the constructor. We will start there. As we move along, you will see that we have init processing. That is important in the prepare to play as well as the reset. But the big ones here are the process samples up, the process samples down, the add oversampling stage and add dummy oversampling stage, as well as the clear oversampling stages. Now this can be confusing because it's like, why do I need a dummy stage? Why do I need to clear them? Why can't I just remove them and all this stuff? And I'm going to tell you that you don't really need these three. I got a little trick that JUCE actually used themselves in one of their examples, so I'm going to show you that right now and get away from all of this, so you only have to worry about these two, the process samples up and the process samples down. So let's head over to VS Code, and here if we go to the header file, we're right there already, and instead of adding all of these stages, we'll just make them up front. So here I have an array of 4 oversamplers. You could do a vector if you want to add more later or do something like that, but I know I only want 4. I only need a 1x, a 2x, a 4x, and an 8x because anything other than that is overkill. But that's how I set mine up, and then I initialize all of the oversamplers within this actual initialization of the array. So what all of these mean here, this first one is the channel. You're probably going to want 2 unless you got some weird plugin, but left and right. This is the factor that you want to raise to. So 2 to the 0 is 1, 2 to the 1 is 2, 4, and 8. That's all that is. This is the type of filter that you want to use, and then a couple of booleans that I can pull up back over on the website to show you what those are. So when it comes to the choices, you have 2 here. You have the polyphase IIR and this fire one. Up to you which one you want to pick. I believe this one's a little faster, but this one might have more precise calculations. So up to you what you want to do. And as for the couple of booleans, if we go back up here, we do max quality. I set that as true, and it's default, so if you don't want to define it, you don't have to. And then I decided to use to round to integer latency, set that to true, just to cut down on the computing a little bit. Instead of having it floats, I can, make it an integer. So that's personally how I did that. So if we head back over to VS Code, I'll actually show you how to use it. So let's actually scroll back up here to prepare to play. And this is where the init processing is. So I loop through all of the samplers in the array, reset them, and then init processing with the samples per block, or the block size essentially, which is part of the prepare to play, so that makes it nice and easy to initialize. And then back down to the processor. It's actually pretty simple. All you have is these 4 lines of code. The first one here is just what the user wants. If they want 2x, 4x, 5x, or 6x, I should, not 6x, 2x, 4x, or 8x, or keep it 1x. Then what we do with that is we get the oversampler that we want. So let's just say it's the 2x, so the index 1. And then we have to process the samples up, which makes sense, right? We need to get more than we have. We need to oversample them. And that takes in the input block here. You can do this a couple of ways. My context is a process context replacing, so my input and output blocks are the same. However, it just makes more sense to do it this way in my head, because according to the documentation here, let's go back over there, this wants an input block, and the process samples down wants an output block. So I'd rather get the input from the context block, from the context, and then the output block also from the context. It just makes more sense in my head, and I think helps keep the code a little more organized with how the documentation works. So this actually passes out a new block. So normally you would create a block from the buffer, as you can see up here, and then you pass that block in there and you get an oversampled block, and now that's the block you want to use. Now in between this is where you do all your processing, whatever you're doing. Mine's all kind of factored away inside this distort engine, so I just have to process and then let that do its magic. You want to make sure you keep passing this oversampled block into whatever you're doing, and constantly use that to get your samples, to get any context you may need, and any processing you may need to do. Then, once your processing is all done, because this takes care of it all, then we need to come back to what your processor thinks the sample rate is. And so, once we do that, we simply make sure we grab the same oversampler, which shouldn't change because this won't change in between here and there. And then we process samples down, and as I showed before, you do the output block, which obviously would mean more if this was non-replacing, but just to keep it consistent, I do the output block. And then that's it. You just gotta keep passing the block around, use the samples in the block, and everything should work just fine. It's a really simple thing. You just got to make sure you open up the oversampler and then you close the oversampler. You will definitely get an error if you try to leave the process block before you sample down, and then if you don't sample up, obviously it won't do anything. And then of course make sure you're passing around that oversampled block. Make sure this is actually, you get the return value, otherwise you're just doing nothing. You need to make sure you have this so you can do stuff to it. But that's the simple tutorial there. I hope that helped. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.